What's the dumbest purchase you guys have ever made all time? Story 1. My dad and I both got into a bidding war at a silent auction on the same thing without knowing it. We were the only two bidding on the item. I thought I was in charge of bidding on it, and he thought the one who was supposed to bid on it. It was 2 tickets to an NHL playoff game. Starting price was $100. We ended up paying $1,050. We are not smart men. Story 2. My VCR DVD died, and I looked up the service manual online. I found a single-page PDF with technical specifications and an official link to purchase what I thought was the full service manual. I paid $16 to get the same page shipped to me that I had already found online. Story 3. We bought a recliner a couple of decades ago. It was fake leather, but we bought a leather care kit recommended at the furniture place. The chair was very nice with heating and massage features, a great place to cuddle up and read, or to be when you felt sick. Turned out the leather care kit explicitly said it should not be used on fake leather. Story 4. When I was a small kid, I paid $20 for a Power Rangers VHS with 1 episode on it. I then bought another after I saved up my allowance again. I did this to get a total of 5 VHSs, all 1 episode each. I paid $100 for 5 episodes of a TV show. Story 5. Cigarettes. Prices finally pushed me to quit. Again, I reduced my smoking to a small amount, but I realized I would always have the tendency to cheat and smoke a lot more, given any excuse. So, stopped 2 weeks ago. This time my mantra is, you've saved $120 in 2 weeks. Story 6. I bought an XGF, a weather wand, which was supposed to be this glass tube with water and crystals inside that changed with the weather. She was studying to be a meteorologist. It was a dildo that was discreetly marketed that way. When she opened it on her birthday, everyone in her family knew what it was. I was literally the only person that thought it was for weather stuff. Her fucking 11-year-old brother starts laughing. There are times when it is 100% okay to punch a child. Story 7. I bought a pair of $400 sunglasses, strictly, because the beautiful girl at the kiosk told me how hot I looked in them. After she rang me up, I asked if I could take her out for a drink after work, but she told me she had a boyfriend. I was going to return the glasses right there, but felt foolish. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot and thought you were interested in me. Now that I see it was just a sales thing, I'd like to return them. I do look hot in them, though. She might have been selling me, but she wasn't lying. That was 20 years ago. I still wear them, and I still get compliments on them. But still, I was a grade A moron. Story 8. The dumbest thing might be a cruise when I couldn't afford it. I was 18 with my first credit card, and no job. I don't know how, but my parents had to get involved in reversing it. It was a special deal for a cruise that started off at $300 and ended up at $1,200. This was when I had no money. I'm in my 40s now, and I've gone on a lot of cruises and spent more money on stupid shit. But the fact that I can remember my mother calling up and saying, "He has no job," stands out. Story 9. I bought the $800 Lego Millennium Falcon when I got a new job that paid a lot more. I was happy I bought it and had a blast building it. But I have no space for it, and it is currently sitting in a closet in a guest bedroom. Story 10. A pet squirrel. I was on a date and we were talking when a squirrel ran out in the middle of the road. Needless to say, she freaked out and demanded I take it to the vet for treatment. The vet had to order special instruments to treat little pest. The next day I was called back to the vet, and he asked when I was going to pick it up. Pick it up? What do you mean? Well, the vet told me that the squirrel couldn't survive on its own because of the surgery. When would I be taking him home? I had no choice. So I took it home and had to elevate his tail. Cost me $500 for the instruments and another $300 for the surgery. Oh, and the date was $50. Worst day of my life. Story 11. I bought a brand new expensive car. At the same time, I found out about Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, but didn't know enough to feel comfortable with making an investment. I really wanted that car. Back then, I could have bought 5 shares of what is now BRK. Today $600,000 plus each. Never made that expensive mistake again. Story 12. Back in the peak era of eBay, I found The Sopranos complete series for $90 on DVD. Too good to be true. The complete series at the time was like $150. I bought it without checking any star ratings or customer reviews. Didn't even think about that until it arrived, and it was clearly a bootleg copy, and like the first disc worked. I went to eBay to file a complaint, and the store had already been delisted, and neither eBay or PayPal gave a shit to help me resolve the situation. It was a lot of money to me at the time, still is, and I felt sick to my stomach throwing it out in the garbage. Story 13. I bought for €50 a supposedly real charcoal sketch of a Paris scene that I purchased from a street vendor in Paris. I thought I was supporting a local artist. He wrapped it so securely and tightly so that it would be safe during my travels. Of course, when I open it at home and inspect it closer, I see it's just a print that can be purchased online for €5. He had smudged off some real charcoal in the corner of the picture when I questioned it, and that somehow reassured me. Turns out he just added that little bit to show schmucks like me. Even though it was a pretty print, I threw it in the garbage immediately because I didn't need to hang up on my wall a constant reminder of my own gullibility. Still gets me. This was 20 years ago. Story 14. Drunk. 17-year-old me spent about $40 on a beautiful sapphire necklace for my GF while in a tourist place in India. The next morning, it was the fakest glass gems I've ever seen. It is hanging next to my childhood bed, and I always chuckle when I see it. Also spent $200 on secondhand skis that I never used, and never will, but those at least have resale value. Story 15. MacBook. Absolutely pointless unless for sure you know you need to do iOS development. Could have used that money to buy a better PC laptop or just do a serious upgrade on my PC. Story 16. I had a 2017 Prius. Great car with about 8 payments left. When gas was like $5.50, gallon 2 summers ago, I traded it in for a Nissan Leaf. It seemed like a great deal at the time. Much lower car payment, cheaper to charge than fill up the tank, and they gave me $13,000 for my Prius. Fast forward to now, gas isn't $5.50 anymore. A car with 160-mile range, only in perfect weather, is a pain in the ass, and most importantly, that Prius would have been paid off. Story 17. Total loss of about $120,000. A 100% fruit juice slush franchise about 2 months before the economy crashed in 2006 had the potential to be awesome. Schools, businesses, you name it. Having no added sugar means you can get into places other slush drinks can't. We had about 25 locations, and then the whole world economy crashed, and one by one, every school and every business told us due to budget cuts, they couldn't continue, and then the company that we were a franchise of went bankrupt, and we lost everything. Story 18. Bought a 06 Maxima back in like 2013. Transmission went out 3 weeks after I bought it. Continuously had oil leaks from various parts in the engine. Had a headlight go out, it was $300 to install. Power steering pump failed shortly after the headlight. AC went out about 3 months after that. I will never buy another Nissan as long as I live. It only had 65K miles on it when I bought it, and I seen why. Edit. Forgot to mention I had a sunroof that worked for about a year, then gave out and fell in, and had water damage all over the roof. Story 19. In my early 20s, I bought a lot of streetwear clothes, and retrospectively, they just look like a snippet of a very specific time in men's fashion. The sneakers, on the other hand, were a good investment. Story 20. When I was 23, I spent over $12,000 on my line of credit on the plans and materials to build a hovercraft. While living in a basement apartment with no garage or even parking space, I had no experience building anything similar, and I bought all the necessary tools. I convinced my landlords to let me erect a temporary garage on their back patio over the winter. Of course, it all went pretty badly. After 6 months of work, most of it redoing things I messed up the first time, I gave up. Cut the whole thing into small pieces and threw it all in the garbage. I recovered about $1,000 by selling the engine, but the rest was gone and took my years to pay off the debt. It was by far the worst idea I ever had. Story 21. A pack of cigarettes. The moment I bought my first pack instead, if just occasionally bumming one from someone else, was the moment it became a problem. I switched to vaping after a few years, and that was even worse. Thankfully, I've managed to get down to 1 pod per week, but I'm struggling to put it down entirely. I hope to get there by the end of the year. Story 22. It's a repeat dumb purchase. Ab belt that uses electromagnetic pulse to work your abs. My structurally deformed self will always have a little belly, which took me a long time to accept. And in the process of that self-acceptance, I fell into the trap that those Abbey belts will actually do something. All they'll do is hurt your skin. Story 23. Came home really drunk from a nightclub one night and decided I really liked the jeans I was wearing and had to buy a couple more pairs just in case. In case of what? I don't know. I was in my 30s, male, if that makes this any less embarrassing. Couldn't find them on the manufacturer's website, but found them on a very dodgy-looking online sales site. Very pixelated, stretched logos, typos on the ordering page, etc. Never mind that. My fashion needs can't be stopped. Bought them. Nothing ever showed up. Meep. Story 24. I bought an Asus Transformer Pro when they were brand new. $500. I was working somewhere with downtime and had a lot of passenger time in the car, so it was seemingly a good investment for gaming, reading, and I loved they keyboard. Less than a week into ownership, I think it was 4 days, I sat it on a shelf at work in its hard case all zipped up. Someone pushed a box from the other side, and the tablet fell perfectly flat. The screen shattered into a million pieces. It was already a stretch for me to have such a luxury. It devastated me to no longer have the tablet and also to have used $500 of family money that could have been used elsewhere. An absolute waste. Story 25 I bid on a 32 inches curved monitor that I didn't realize was cracked. My max bid is $30, and I'm actually really pissed that I might get stuck with it. Maybe not for $30, but more than I should be paying. Which honestly is what I get for not paying attention. Story 26. Dropped $800 at a strip club. Went to the VIP where she took my pants off and gave me a dance in my underwear, and there was def more touching than on the floor. For both of us. 30 mins. Also had a few drinks. I was there maybe hour and a half and spent about $900 total. I want to avoid strip clubs for about 5 years. Story 27. My first car. The odometer was rolled back to 80K miles when it actually had 250K. Tried to return it 3 days later and they refused. Filed a police report. They took all of their cars off their lot and booked it. Dumped hundreds into the car back then, and it kept breaking down over and over and only lasted 2 months before it completely shut down on the road coming back from trade school. Sold it for $100 to a tow company. Story 28. I once bought an annual subscription to one of those weight loss apps. What they gave me was a half-assed trainer and nutritionist who just enforced myths and stereotypes, and in fact, made me gain a bunch of weight because of the diet they prescribed. Worst purchase ever. Make informed decisions, guys. Story 29. It wasn't $, but some kid going door to door sold me a $60-ish bottle of super concentrated cleaning solution maybe 12 years ago. He was awesome and a real hustler, so I think I bought more to reward his grit than the need for his product. It was called Mrs. Pumpers or similar. My wife called me a sucker. It's in the back of a basement cabinet. I don't think I ever used it once. Story 3073 Maverick Grabber was like 23, and I way overpaid for a rat rod cluster from some old dude because a lying idiot of a friend at the time said he knew cars and that it was a good deal. Yeah, nope. Ended up throwing another 10K into it on stupid stuff, and it's currently sitting in a yard not running. Was definitely a learning experience. Story 31. Whole life insurance. I was convinced during college to buy it even though I had no house, wife, or kids who needed coverage were I to die. I paid into that thing for years, and when I contacted the company to cancel, I was actually happy to get back something like 10% of what I paid into the thing. Now I have a 20-year term life insurance plan, investments through my company's 401k plan, and am much happier than the rip-off program I was sold when I didn't need it or know better. Story 32, 1983. Mercedes 300 TD. Bought used in 2019 from someone that didn't have it for long and was likely flipping it. Looked it over and it seemed fine. Burned up on me about an hour and a half from home. Would have likely cost me more in towing and repairs than it was worth and what I bought it for, so I gave the title to the tow truck guy, left it with him on the side of the road somewhere in Indiana, and rode home with my husband, who was thankfully following me home. Pissed away $1,500. That was delightful. Perez still bitter and angry about that one a little bit. Story 33 VR headset. My wife was dropping hints and watching loads of YT videos of people playing VR games, so I got her an index for $1K when it first came out. She was so excited. I bet she has used it for an hour, maybe two, since I got it for her 3 years ago. Don't think she used it once last year. Now it makes a neat piece on the shelf. I bought one too, but knowing I had little interest, I got one of the far cheaper options like $300. I probably used mine more. Mostly as a massive screen for watching movies, but still used it more. Mine is no longer updated, but glad I didn't spend the $2K for 2 index, since games now are basically the same they were 3 years ago. Story 34. Wheel and tire warranty for my car. At one point I was having an issue with a tire losing air, so I took it in. Turns out the rim was bent, probably from a pothole, which caused the tire to wear oddly in one spot and probably leak as a result. No problem. A pothole is clearly listed in the policy as a road hazard, so it should be covered, right? Wrong. See, the worn spot on the tire was below whatever minimum tread depth the policy would cover. So claim denied because it's based on the lowest point on the tire, even though the damage is the reason the tire is worn. What about the bent rim? I asked. Oh, we won't pay for that either because it's not causing the tire to leak according to the guy at the shop, and therefore it's not damaged enough for us to pay to replace it. Live and learn, I guess.